So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. And I am super excited to be joined by an icon of the Australian television screens, the fantastic Lynne McGranger. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me, Matthew. Look, I'm pretty good. Thank you. I'm back after my trip to the UK, back into the swing of things gradually, which is great. Everything's great, darling. Spring is in the air here in Australia because it's been a cold old winter. Needless to say, when we were in the UK, it was a huge shock because it was so damn hot. But it's been very cold here, and now, there's a whiff of spring in the air, so it's lovely.
I mean, obviously, you're based in Sydney. So, I mean, how are things just generally with life, with everything that we've been going through over the last few years? Have things eased now?
Yes, they certainly have. So, just a bit of a backstory. My husband and myself, Paul, and I had never had COVID until we went to the UK. Thank you very much, London Tube. So we came armed with, 4 vaccinations and had the flu vaccine and all of that, and lasted till about the last few days, and then whammo, got hit. Luckily, I wasn't too bad, just a bit of a cold, heavy cold, flew back, nobody cared, nobody asked any questions, no questionnaires. Do you have it? Have you had it? No one cared. And Paul's taken a little bit longer to recover, but he's well and truly on the mend now. Having said that, at work, we're still doing we've just changed from 7 days isolation to 5 days isolation. And apparently, too, I heard on the news that they're removing masks from aeroplanes, but that may well just be domestic around Australia. Actually, that doesn't bother me. I was glad in a way, because I was sneezing and snuffling. I was glad to have a mask on coming back, because, yourself, people sneeze and cough around you and you look at them. And so that I was pleased with that. And that doesn't mean to say I might not still do it. Like, we don't have to wear masks in shopping centres or in supermarkets, but sometimes I do, just because I think if it's going to be crowded, also if I'm still recovering, I don't want to be coughing over people.
It's always better to err on the side of caution, I say. Just
in a
do the things
heartbeat,
to
huh?
exactly.
Yeah,
Now,
and do them for other people, not just yourself, I guess.
exactly. Now, I mean, obviously, apart from getting COVID in the UK, how was your trip? Because I know it's not your first time to the UK. So, for you, what do you enjoy about visiting the UK?
Well, we've done it. I mean, gosh, I've done it since I was a lot younger. I think first time I went over was with my parents when I was 20 and my sister was 16. And actually, it was during the Troubles, so there was a lot of issues going on. Then I went back in my mid-20s, the Grand Tour. And then when our daughter, in the mid-90s, when our daughter was 4, nearly 5, we came over and did our first panto at the Brighton Dome. And that's all I ever wanted to do. I just wanted to do pantomime. I wanted to work in the UK. And be careful what you wish for, because here we are 26 years on, and looks like I might be coming over at Christmas time to do another one.
Ah, fantastic. We love to hear that.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, obviously, the coming when you're in your 20s and people don't necessarily know you at that point. So,
Well, no,
do you remember
absolutely
the
not.
first time coming to the UK when people knew you and wanted to, speak to you and everything? Was that a
Uh,
weird experience?
It was weird. In fact, it was when we were at the Brighton Dome, and I played Fairy Bowbells in Dick Whittington. Our daughter actually was one of the tinies on stage, so she came on and sang happy birthday to Alice and blah blah blah. But it was because I used to have the short blonde hair then, and I stood out like the proverbial anyway. But that was the first time I realised just how popular the show was, and because that was down south. The further north you go, the crazier they get about the show. And of course the Irish love it, and the Scottish and the Welsh, but yeah, I think that was when I was in Brighton that it dawned on me that, wow, you know, I'd been on the show for, at that point, probably full-time about 3 years, 92, 93, 94, yeah, about 2.5 years. And I realised just how, you know, huge the show was. And, you know, here we are, what, 26 years later, and it's still, yeah, still rating really well and still incredibly popular. And we still get visitors from all over the UK and Ireland and, you know, Norway and Belgium and Estonia turning up at Palm Beach.
I mean, it must be kind of, I mean, do you still have these pinchy moments now? I mean, I know you've been on the show a while, but do you still have those times where you kind of go, I can't believe I'm in this position. You know, I've got this great job. I'm doing this amazing work.
Yes, I still pinch myself because it's like, and I've said this before, it's like winning the acting lottery. You know, it's just a bit of luck, bit of hard work, bit of perseverance, bit more luck. You know, it really was like being in the right place at the right time. And, you know, I'm a great believer in you are, you know, you're where you're meant to be. And I have been so lucky. I'm in my 30th year now on the show. Well, my daughter was 20 months old when I started as a guest artist, and 6 months after that I was on full time. And she's now 32 in January. So that'll give you an idea. She's just grown up with it. She's not known anything else, you know. But I feel very blessed, very lucky, like I think all the actors that are on the show.
I mean, we will talk a bit more about Home and Away in just a moment, but I wanted to briefly mention, because I read this statistic and I just had to mention it, that you are, and I hope I got this right, you are the longest serving character actress in an Australian drama, because you're coming up to 30 years. No one has beaten that. I think Jackie Woodburn, who was close, but she's 2 years.
She was a couple of years.
Exactly.
She was a couple of years behind, but she's gone now.
So for you, that must be quite a nice honour to have a sort of a record.
It is nice. I remember when I started beating Kate Ritchie. I was like, yes, it is. It's extraordinary. And of course, Ray's been there since, you know, well, since Moses played fullback for Egypt, really. You know, I mean, he's been there for so long, since the show started, and it's now into its 35th year. And he was there in the pilot.
It's just amazing, an amazing achievement. Now, as I say, we will come back to Home and Away, but I wanted to go back to kind of where it all began for you. Do you remember where you became interested in acting? How you got into that industry?
Well, I'd been a school teacher. And to be honest, when I was young, I was always putting concerts on in the backyard, or, you know, miming to songs and learning and making up dances with girlfriends and all that sort of thing. So I always had a bit of the show off in me. And while I was at Teachers College, I became involved in the drama department, and we did like a bit like the Oxford Footlights or the Cambridge Footlights. You know, we do reviews and write, you know, silly songs and play silly characters, larger than life stuff. So that was when I was what, 19, 20. And I also I won an acting award while I was at college. I did a Brian Friel play called Lovers, Winners and Losers. I was in Winners, and won an acting award for that. And you know, it just sort of started to dawn on me. I thought, not only is this fun, but I think I'm all right at it. I think I can wing this. Anyway, cut to teaching for a couple of years, and I just wasn't, you know, it wasn't me. I wasn't very good at it. I didn't enjoy it as I saw other people around me enjoying it. And I think it is a real calling, teaching. It's a bit like, you know, being a nurse or being a priest, or, you know, it's a calling. And I had not been called. So anyway, while that was going on, I was doing, you know, a bit of doing drama workshops, and eventually I went out to the Q Theatre, which is out in the western suburbs of Sydney, and it was sort of part of the inaugural. It had been a lunchtime theatre in Sydney, and then we went out there and we helped build the sets and we helped sell the tickets, and I was cast in a play, and then they said, well, you better join Equity. And I was like, joining Equity then was like, you know, the holy grail of everything. And I was like, what? Oh my goodness. So of course, then once that happened, I was able to work and get paid. But then I went back and did drama school for a little while, part-time for a couple of years, all the while teaching part-time. But I was becoming less and less enamored with that. And, you know, thank heaven I was able to walk away from it. I didn't have a job to go to, but I had bits and pieces. I was doing auditions. I was learning Irish dancing and tap dancing and doing all that, so doing part-time work. And then, you know, suddenly I auditioned for a role in it's called the Murray River Performing Group. It's in Albury Wodonga, which is on the border between New South Wales and Victoria. It was a large country city, and they had a subsidised theatre group, and I was accepted into that. And that's where I met my husband. He was a musician involved in it. And yeah, I was there for 4 years, and then we just moved on from that. And so, needless to say, I never went back to teaching. And I think there's a lot of, you know, well, now middle-aged or certainly, you know, late 30s people out there very grateful that I didn't go back to it.
Now, obviously, when Home and Away came along for yourself, it was a character that had already kind of been around for a little while. So taking over a role from someone else, was that a strange thing? And I mean, how did it come about in the first place?
Well, Jackie Phillips originally played Irene, and I think that she probably played it, I don't know, I'm going to say a year, 2 years before they auditioned me. Now, for whatever reason, she didn't want to. She couldn't. It clashed. I have no idea, but she did not take up the role again. And so I had previously auditioned for another role, a series called Seven Deadly Sins, which came about as a result of being in a play. And so I auditioned for the Seven Deadly Sins, and I was really sick. I had bad food poisoning, all the things they tell you not to do at drama school. Don't turn up sick, don't make excuses, all of those things. I could barely string 2 sentences together, but I got the role. And then about 2 weeks later, my agent then, I lived in Melbourne then, rang me and said they want you to audition for a role, a guest role on Home and Away. It has the potential to be ongoing. Yeah, you know, like, yeah, sure. They all say that. And so I went along and auditioned, expecting a cattle call. And it was just me and Liz Mulliner, who was the casting agent, some microphones that I acted against, and she was filming me and reading the words. And then about 10 days after, she rang and said, "You've got the role." I was like, what? So that was a 3-month gig. That went over the Christmas break, so that sort of turned into 4 months with the 4 weeks off at Christmas. And so my daughter, who was, as I said, was 20 months old, so we're up staying with my mum and dad, and Paul's working down in Melbourne, and then he'd fly up one weekend and we'd fly back another weekend. And then when I left, they said, "Would you consider coming back, you know, in 6 months' time for, you know, an ongoing, you know, maybe 6 months or 12 months?" And I went, sure. So then that happened, and they signed me on for 12 months. And then, you know, they signed me on for 2 years, and then they just kept signing me on. And I don't think they've realised yet that I still don't know what the hell I'm doing.
I mean, I say, did you ever imagine that you would become you know, such an integral part of that show? And did you ever imagine that you'd still be there nearly 30 years later?
Not in a pink fit. Not in a pink fit, because an actor's lot is, you know, you audition, you get a role. Oh my God, I got a role. And then while you're doing that role, whether it's a 4-week play or whether it's a 3-month stint on telly, or you go, oh, I've got to audition. What's my next role? What am I doing? You know, oh, nothing. So I'll go and work in the sandwich shop for 3 months, but all the time auditioning. So that's an actor's lot. Or I'm driving cabs or whatever. So to not have to do that for nearly 30 years is just like, it is an absolute godsend, and it's a blessing, to the point where I think, because now they do things like self-tapes. I don't know what, I mean, I know what it is, but I don't know how to do it. So were I to ever leave Home and Away, either permanently or for a lengthy period of time, and go out and try and audition and do other things, I would be like stuck in the 1990s. I'd need serious help, because it's a whole new world out there, and it's a tough world. And so, you know, I feel even, you know, doubly, triply blessed.
I mean, have you ever been tempted to kind of go out there and see kind of what else is available, or do you like the fact that you've got a character that you can explore, that you can really get your teeth into, that you can kind of develop as well?
Well, yeah, I think a bit of both of those things, Matthew. I love playing Irene, and I love, you know, I love that she's, you know, flawed, and that she's, you know, kind and funny, and you know, but has, you know, makes terrible mistakes in her life, and has got, you know, a big mouth on her and all of that. I love that, and I think that's the honest, to be honest, I think that's kind of the reason why characters like Alf, like Marilyn, like Leah, like Irene, like Rue, like John Palmer are long lasting is because they're all so flawed, and they all are, you know, make terrible mistakes, and people identify with that. So that I really enjoy that. But by the same token, if I get the chance to do something else, like, and I can fit it in with work, or I've got enough time to be able to give the office, you know, like I have to give them pretty much 6 months notice, because they're storylining all the time, ahead. So for me to, like, I've just come over, obviously, over there for 3 weeks. I had to let them know that at the end of last year, because I knew I was going to a wedding. And so I got the extra time off. We already had 2 weeks off, so I added on another 2 weeks. And in the end, I had another 3 weeks because I had to take the COVID week off, you know. So, yeah, I think with regards to the question you just asked me, yes, I think both of those things are still very much valid as far as I'm concerned.
Now, I mean, if you were to meet Irene in real life, do you think you'd be friends? Do you think you'd get on? How would you get on with her?
Look, I think I would. I really think I would. She has a lot of, I mean, obviously, pardon me, because, you know, I play Irene and I'm the only tool I've got. But I love the fact that she does not give a hoot about, you know, how people view her. She very much is this, you know, this is how I feel. I mean, of course, takes people's feelings into consideration, but if she thinks that you're up to no good, or that you know, you're not being 100% truthful, or that, you know, you're trying to be a bit of a scammer, she will call it out, and I admire that very much. Lynne's a bit more, you know, circumspect. I'm a bit, not that I'm shy, believe me, I'm not. And if Ada were here, she would tell you that I'm absolutely not shy at all. I you know, tell people what I think, but not all the time, and usually because I'm cross with them. I don't, but I'd like to be like Irene, and just to be able to go, you know, sit down, darl, let's just have a little chat, because I'm perceiving this. So I really love that, and therefore I think I would really like her if I met her in real life. She might think I'm a bit of a tosser, but there you go.
Now, the next question is, I think, a pretty tough one, because 30 years of storylines, there's a lot to pick from. But is there a favourite storyline that you've had over the years? You know, what would you choose as highlights?
Right. Well, I think the breast cancer storyline was very important to me. I loved on so many levels. So my best friend who lives in York, her daughter had been told that she had breast cancer, and she went into remission, but then it came back again, and she sadly ultimately passed away at the age of 49. So we mirrored Nikki's journey, because Nikki was sending us all the information from her doctors, and our nurse, if you like, our resident nurse, our medical advisor, she was reading the material, and we were mirroring Nikki's journey. And Irene, went into remission and survived. Sadly, Nikki didn't. So that's got a real place in my heart. Also, I really enjoyed the stuff a couple of years ago with Belle, where she was being groomed online, and Irene came back from Jasmine's wedding and found her being assaulted and basically nearly bludgeoned this bloke to death, because it came out later that it brought back memories that she had been abused when she was 15, and she had given birth to a son, which no one hitherto had known about, no one in the Bay knew about. And then, of course, the son finds out and comes back in and starts to stalk Irene, wants to know why Irene's abandoned him and blah, blah, blah. So that was really meaty, and it went on and on and on. And prior to that, I'd walked up the stairs to the office and gone in and sat in with Louise Bose, who's the head writer, and gone, so Lou, what's going on? I'd really like, they feel like Irene needs something a bit meaty. And she goes, well, have I got something in store for you? And it sounded great at the time. What I didn't know was that it was going to drag on for months, and I was going to barely see daylight or my family. It was just so full on. And we were picking up scenes 5 weeks later. I remember having to go in and just break down and be hysterical in what was my bedroom. Irene doesn't have a bedroom, but they knocked up a corner of something. And I just thought, that's it. That's the last time I walk up those flipping stairs, because I was just absolutely wrecked by the end of that storyline. But they, I think, are the two that stand out. I mean, we've had lots of laughs and lots of funny stuff, and that's always so enjoyable and so much fun. But in terms of meatiness and storylines that I think meant a lot to the public, I think they are the two that to me stand out.
I mean, that must be an amazing thing when you can play a character for so long and still be learning new things about them. I mean, do you still get surprised by things that Irene has in her life come up?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, she had a son. Who knew? But obviously Irene knew, but Lynne didn't know that Irene knew. And it just unfolded. But I think that, again, is the magic of the show, is that we've all got, secrets. We've all got skeletons in the cupboard, and we don't necessarily go, hi, I'm Lynne. I spent 5 years in jail once for armed robbery or whatever, We don't do that. And so, but as you get to know somebody, things come out. And, whether it's you've got a terminal illness, or whether you lost a child, or a childbirth, or whatever, these things do unfold as we get to know real people. And I think they've, a show like Home and Away, where the characters are so established, and even the newer ones, things, come out. And that's what makes it interesting. We're not just sitting around drinking cups of tea, talking about the weather.
Now, I mean, if the opportunity ever came up, would you love to jump over to one of the British soaps to get your teeth into that?
In a heartbeat, yes. I've had this conversation actually recently, and look, I would love to. My problem is, I think, is a lot of people see Irene, see me and see Irene. So I would have to, really bring it in the auditions to show that I could be much like Emily did with when she was on Emmerdale and played a bit of a bad egg. And then, because Marilyn is the opposite end of the spectrum, Marilyn is so sweet and, a little bit, a lot of an airhead, and, just with the best intentions. But apparently her character on Emmerdale was a bit mean and nasty, but also playing mean and nasty is great. So yes, in answer to your question, I absolutely would love to.
And I mean, obviously, we just wanted to briefly mention, obviously, the loss of Neighbours. I mean, obviously, I imagine for everyone in Australia, that's such a shame that you've lost a sort of a TV icon. Home and Away, Neighbours, yes. They kind of should have continued on together.
Yes, but it's nothing lives forever. I had this conversation with a journalist today. Nothing lasts forever. We're all going to drop off the twig one day. some sooner, some later, and the same as with television shows. I mean, it'll be like your Coronation Street. I'm sure the country will go into mourning when that goes down, when that closes up. And who knows, it might be 50 years away. And, you know, I won't be around to see it end. You might be. But look, the sad thing was for us, on Home and Away, was seeing so many of the crew and the cast to a lesser degree, because the cast will still be able to go over and go, you know, do tours on the back of Neighbours and do, you know, look, there'll probably be a musical before you know it, you know, and a stage play. It'll keep going on some level, and some of the actors might just jump ship and go to Neighbours, go to Coronation Street, go to Emmerdale, who knows. But the crew are another kettle of fish, you know, that they you know, there's more work here now than there was, and a lot of you know, obviously things like Netflix shows come out here and film, so there's all of that, but they have lost, you know, their bread and butter, and that's really sad for them. But they've known, I reckon they've known for, well, we knew there was rumours around the cast, I'm going to say 6 months ago. That's what we'd heard, that it was happening. And of course, you know, I don't know whether people know, because people would get on Twitter and go, you know, Lynne McGranger, Shane Whittington, Alf, Ada Nicodemo, save Neighbours. Like, what power do we have? We're puppets. Also, what people don't understand is that Neighbours was funded by British companies. Home and Away is funded by Channel 7. So Australia had no say over it. It was the English companies or the British companies or, you know, investors that pulled out. And they obviously pulled out because it wasn't making money anymore. And I'm being very brutal here. As much as people loved it, and as much as people are devoted, and there's still people online trying to get it back up again. It's like, well, you know, if you can come up with a cool, you know, 50 mil every so often, then by all means go for it. But, you know, at the end of the day, it wasn't making money. And it had been quite a few years that it had gone in Australia from being on at 6:30 on a main channel down, you know, to a lesser channel. But it was the English market that was keeping it alive, and then it was no longer, you know, valid for them to do that. You know, it is what it is.
Now, I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure talking to you. But before we go, is there any messages you'd like to give to anyone who's currently stuck in hospital at the moment, obviously not having the best of times? What would you like to say to them?
I would love to say, get well, guys. Please get well. Enjoy, try and get out into the sunshine. I imagine it's still sunny and warm there. Keep watching Home and Away. Don't grieve too much about Neighbours. They're all doing very well, and I wouldn't be surprised if a couple turned up on Home and Away, who knows. But yeah, guys, please get well, get strong, look after yourselves, and yeah, open the window, look at this blue sky, enjoy the sunshine, and take care.
And also, Panto is around the corner, so they should come and see you.
Fingers crossed. I can't say too much as we're still negotiating, but I'm hoping to be over, because it's been, well, obviously 2 years of COVID, and I came to England 2019, 2020, but not to do Panto. So it was the year before that. It was 2018, 2019. So it's been a while. So I hope I haven't forgotten what to do. But well, yeah, fingers crossed.
And as I say, Lynne, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining me. Of course, keep safe, and you are welcome back anytime.
Oh, thank you so much, Matthew. My great pleasure. Lots of luck.